Hello. Very, very happy to share some thoughts today with Amos Gitai. And let me first of all say, welcome back to MAXXI, Amos. We are online on the MAXXI channels. And to start this conversation, I also want to say how you know this, because we've been talking about this in 2006 when you realized your exhibition here, but how grateful and thankful we are at MAXXI for your work, and let me put it easily, for having never given up the research and the thinking around this crucial episode of, Israel's history, but I would say world history, when in November 4th, 1995, Yitzhak Rabin was shot. And the hope for peace was really was crushed down. So, Amos, I have a lot of things I would like to talk with you about, because let's remember that we're here because you have recently published with in Italian, in Italy, with La Nave di Teseo, this beautiful book. I really loved reading it because it's something very, very unique. It's a diary. It's a chronicle of your understanding the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin. It's an archive. It's a small part of your work on the archive memory of this brutal and dark moment of history. So let me start with this. Let me start by asking you, I mean, you have really worked a lot on archiving memory and on putting your art, your several arts as a filmmaker, as a writer, as a theater dramaturgist, at the service of understanding what happened in Israel in that November. So what is for you this great work around this archive? I will start from here.
I would say, Joanna, that the issue is really about memory. And I think memory is not only a nostalgic gesture, it is a proposition. It is a proposition. Because obviously, you know, by the way, the syntax of Hebrew language, there is no present time in the syntax.
Sure.
There is only past and future. But the moment that I say to you a sentence, it's already a past. And it is opposite to the European languages where you have present perfect. The present is very elaborate, leisure, present, and so on. In the Jewish tradition, it is a direct connection between memory, let's say history, and a utopian proposition. So I think that I've decided in the last years to start to give my archives to different institutions that I respect. You know, what we did in 2006 at the MAXXI was part of this idea, is about
Yes.
How can we take an event which is in the public domain, the tragic assassination of Rabin, and transpose it into another medium. And we did this very beautiful exhibition. And now came the book published by Elisabetta.
Yes,
Yeah.
Elisabetta Sgarbi.
Yes, and I think it's all part of little stones that we put. Since you come also from politics, because
Yes.
you are minister, obviously, you know that the relation between the arts and the politics is not an easy one, and that sometimes even the artists are mistaken by thinking that if I speak about Rabin, it will change immediately the reality. The truth is, unfortunately or fortunately, it will not. The reality will continue its own pace, and what we do is to keep a trace of memory, hoping that memory will make its own road. And in some cases, it does make a road. So the idea of giving donations of archives, now recently, by the way, there was also a very big exhibition in Paris at the Bibliothèque Nationale.
The Bibliothèque Nationale. I read that you gave to the Bibliothèque Nationale Française 30,000 pieces, right? I mean, so huge has the archives become. And let me just put you another question. I mean, it's not a question; it's an observation. For me, it was very interesting in this book. It is very clearly stated that we the world, maybe we the Israeli people, a general we, did not see, I think you write this very clearly, the signals, and I remember even in the show here, the signals of hate which led to Rabin's assassination. And the other thing is, Yitzhak Rabin was a leader, yes, a great political leader, who started during the Oslo negotiations. I remember very well. I mean, he really he put on the table the memory of the mistakes and of the possible outcomes of those mistakes. He never hid. How do you say this in English? He never. Do you say hided or hid?
Was hiding.
Okay, he was never hiding history. So I really think that I understand, by the way you describe Rabin, not only obviously the political and social background of your inquiry, of your research, but there is something in his own character, in his own personality, that was driven to not hide history, that is, not hide memory, which is so similar to your work. And I think that I think this is, do you feel this is an important relation, an important red thread that I am sort of unleashing? And the other thing I wanted to ask you, I mean, I know, and I've read in this book, in fact, I didn't know before, that your family comes from Belarusia originally. And obviously the parallel with, I would ask you, may I dare a parallel in the fact that we did not see, as we had not seen at the time, the signals of hate that would have led to Rabin's assassination. We haven't been looking, and we did not see the signals of hate and of violence that led to Putin's war in these days. So I would like you to sort of say something around this, if you wish.
No, I mean, let's say about Rabin, because, you know, he invited me to join him on 2 trips that he did to Washington and to Cairo, and I spoke to him. First of all, I learned, because I met some statesmen, let's say, to like when they speak in a very simple language. They are not completely consumed by their own ego, and they talk to you in a sober way. And he was a character like that, you know. I say at the beginning of the book that obviously he's a politician, a general, and I'm just looking at these testimonies, and I think that's the role that I keep to myself. I never wished to be a real politician, because I think that the arts, there is this kind of dialectics between the art and the event, which it's not good to pass it. I think that when filmmakers like, let's say, Michael Moore, they start to feed you by spoon, by force, I think that you lose the quality that the arts have to speak in a parabolical way, to make you think, to make you feel, to make you cry. So obviously, I think that the Rabin project to reconcile this almighty Israeli conflict is a very important project. And the assassination of Rabin more than a quarter of a century ago decapitated it. I think we have no continuity. And also the guy who was sitting on his chair for a very long time, which we just now managed to move him somewhere else. We never know. It's a bit like Trump. Maybe he will come back, So I think that we have on the planet now a good brochette of despots. Obviously, Putin is an excessive version of it, but you have Bolsonaro, you have the Hungarian guy, and the question is, how can the planet continues with these kind of people ruling good segments? But to go back to the arts, because this is the subject we're talking in a great museum that you are the president in Rome, and I had the great pleasure to work with. And by the way, now the exhibition that was at the Bibliothèque Nationale will go to Madrid. It will go to the Reina Sofia, and I'm very happy that it will go to the Reina Sofia. Now we see an image of the exhibition when it was.
Yes.
So because we can learn also from the model of Picasso, because obviously the Guernica is now sitting in Madrid, and we can ask, what is the impact of the work of art on the reality? And if we look at this great work of Picasso, the Guernica, we can see that the Picasso was very shocked by the 1937 bombardment of the Luftwaffe of this Basque village, and he did this incredible painting, but it didn't change the reality. Franco won the war, and the painting became a painting, but still the fact that there is a trace of a position of a good artist, Picasso, about it was kept in the mind, and today we even remember some events of the civil Spanish War thanks to artistic gestures. So I'm for producing artistic gestures which will remain and keep us a memory. Let's say, go back to Rabin, that there was a period that there was somebody who was really taking a lot of risks to try to reconcile this almighty conflict that the Middle East, whatever it is, we need to find a solution. So it is necessary as a gesture.
In all your works, in all your films, and also in the show that we hosted here, for me it was very, and also I have to say, in this book, let's not forget that we're talking about this book edited by Nobel. For me, it is very interesting, the work that you have done on the idea of fragments. I mean, your point of view, I would say, is never doctrinal or well, it is political, but it's not didactic or doctrinal. Never, even in this book. And I think the way you reach this freedom as an artist, and I think you're very right in underlining this, is that you put fragments together. So I remember this was very powerful also in the exhibition that we were hosting here, and it has always been very powerful in all your films. So this work around fragments, maybe we could explore something around this, which also has to do with the idea of an archive, obviously. So we go back to archiving memory and archiving history, but using fragments for the artistic and aesthetic production.
Yes, as you know, to start with, I'm just an architect. I never studied 1 hour of film school. And especially now that I do also exhibitions, books, theatrical performance, I feel at this stage of my life very free to navigate between different forms of expressions. And I think that the architecture studies gave me a structure. And also the love for what you mentioned, juxtaposition. We have juxtaposition. So the great thing about juxtaposition of fragments it introduces a poetic vision, also of politics, but a poetic, not a pamphlet, not a social realism. It's a poetic, it's an associative method, because actually the public that I would like she or he to work as an interpreter, not as a consumer. I think we have too much consumption in the arts also. We have overwhelming objects of consumption, and we should encourage interpretation. And I think that my own experiences, when I see, let's say, cinemas which work like that, whether it's Jean-Luc Godard or Pasolini or Rossellini or any of these great masters, is that they the best screening of this kind of projects start when the screening is over. So you go back from an exhibition or from a film or from a book, and it kind of meandering in your head, these fragments, and they will shape another mood, another reality. And this mood is a much more solid stone for an understanding than if I write a didactic, indoctrinated piece. Even for the good cause, I don't believe in indoctrinated pieces. So I think that suggesting for people to associate themselves these fragments and say, I'm giving you this event which exploded the Middle East, the assassination of Rabin. And I'm showing you different fragments. They're also situated sometimes, like you said, in family memories of my parents. And, my grandmother was a friend of the...
Rose, right? This book, I think, is really very interesting how this woman figure comes out of your biography. Tell us something about Rose. The red rose.
Yes, no, Rabin's mother, Rosa, Rabin was born in 1922 in the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem. When you hear, for those who visited Jerusalem, I suppose you did,
Yes, obviously.
Yes. So when you hear the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem, you think about traditional Jews, okay? But the mother of Rabin, who was born in the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem, was walking on the first line with the red flag on the 1st of May. So in a way that Rabin was not supposed to be a military guy. He wanted to be an agronome. So these kind of figures of this kind of generation of Israelis, which is close to some story of my own family. My maternal grandparents came to Palestine in 1905 from Russia after the big wave of pogroms. And there were socialist Jews who had a utopian idea about the society. And so my mother was born in Tel Aviv, the year that Tel Aviv was created. I mentioned to you that the letters of my mother are also published now in several languages, in France by Gallimard, in Italy by Bompiani, in New York by the Primo Foundation, in Brazil, etc., etc. So you could see a woman, my mother, who through this letter you kind of discover the very origin of contemporary Israel, which is not religious. It is a modern project. And I think the same which I did about Rabin, I did also about the archives of my parents. My father was the architect of the Bauhaus, my mother, we just spoke about her. It's to remind people that this is the point of origin. The fact that there are many things which added later that we can like and dislike, but let's go back to the origin. Maybe it will give us some perspective of what we can do.
Yes, and it was probably that origin that allowed Yitzhak Rabin to put everything on the table. I want to go back to that point, which you mention longly in your book, the fact that negotiations were possible because he allowed all the issues to be on the table, even those that were very controversial, even the return issue, not only the land, water, the military and political cooperation, but So I think that the courage that I had the great pleasure and honor to meet with Leah when I was in politics many years ago. And I remember a conversation with her exactly on this point, the fact that he allowed the conversation to be free. And I think that was probably the major and focal cause for the violent campaign, the denigration campaign that started. Not agreeing, he did not agree on many issues, but he was an interlocutor, and he did open to that conversation. So I think that I would really like to go back with you, and given also your family roots, and I mean, I would really like to go back to you to this issue of how can a denigration campaign and a hate campaign be so powerful. I mean, when you ignite hate, when you ignite a denigration campaign at that fearful measure, anything can happen. Even killing and assassinating a man of peace. So I don't know if I may, but I would really like to see if there is some. I mean, what is the kind of risk that you feel we are living through now with this ignition of hate, which is obviously even multiplied by social networks and by the way communication works. Do you have any thoughts to share around that?
I mean, I think we should fight it, like you said when we started our conversation. You know, it's obviously easy to say than to do, and since neither you or me are holding arms, we can do what we can do with the medium. So I think that good cultural institutions should promote thinking, because in the arts, you know, there is decadence. Okay. And I will not start to name a long list of elements which are decadent in my mind. So the decadence by itself is a signification of the certain world that we live right now. And the element of money, of empty gestures, completely formal and so on. So I think that it calls for institutions to initiate thinking, because I think that with all these networks, people get the illusion, because we have much more information, but we have much less knowledge. Knowledge and information are not the same. So we are bombarded by information. The very easy clicking on a phone and getting some Wikipedia gives us an illusion that we know something, but knowledge, it's actually painful. It's you have to invest, you have to interpret, like you said. So I think that, and I'm willing to come back to you to do something.
Please, open arms to you. And in fact, what you're saying is very challenging to institutional building. We are, your father was a Bauhaus architect. We are looking at this idea of a new European Bauhaus as a sort of framework to engage and develop MAXXI's programs in the present and in the future. We are definitely compelled and asked to, well, you talk about decadence, which I agree with the empty formal gestures, but I would add that decadence is connected to the commoditization. How would you say that in English? Making art a commodity. Okay, let me put it that way. Making art a commodity and being totally driven by market values. So that is where we the institutions, the institutional builders can have a role, and this is where me, the whole team, Hanru, and the whole curatorial team really thinks that our place is and our role is, and yes, I totally agree. So let's work together again, Amos, with pleasure.
With pleasure, Giovanna. So you see, not only we spoke some words, but maybe something concrete. No, with pleasure. I'm in the process of working. I gave the works of my father. I gave some of it to the Pompidou, some to the MoMA in New York, and as you know, I gave the big chunk of Rabin to the BNF, now to the Rena Sofia. But we should make a date and think about.
Okay, let's elaborate on the date and on the project. I really think that
challenging the arts. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think that you're about to miss a plane if you don't leave this conversation.
Yes,
let us remember, whoever is following us, that the occasion of this short but interesting conversation is a publication in Italy by Nave di Teseo of this very interesting book by Amos Gitai, Cronache di un assassinio, which again, using the structure of fragments of diaries, of photographs, and of the history that brought your gaze and your research, I would say the gaze and the research of one of the most remarkable contemporary artists, to deal with the story and the history of an unquestionable protagonist of the 20th century. And this protagonist, Yitzhak Rabin, is resurfacing, and you're digging in this story, and we are really very grateful that you have not given up, because I think that we, as many people and as you, have all we remained breathless in front of this very violent curve and in history that I think we're still dwelling with, and we're still trying to overlook. And maybe I should close saying that I found a line in this book where you say maybe the only response, and it's really an artistic gesture to say the only alternative to what is happening now, or what is not happening now in the peace project, is going back to Rabin.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Amos, and take care, and let's be in touch in the
yes,
recent future.
with pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you.